To me, marketing is the ethical persuasion of helping people achieve what they already want. I'm not selling them a dream. They
Mm.
already want something for themselves and they want to do it without paying ignorance tax and having more pain and more suffering. And the stakes are high and they are desperate for people to trust. So it's my duty, my moral obligation as one of the good ones to do the hard work so that I can be found to those that need me most, period. So yes,
Mhm.
to me, marketing is the ethical persuasion. It's a valid, worthy, valiant pursuit of helping people.
Welcome to It's Not What You Think, the podcast that takes you on a transformative journey to rewrite your story of greatness and reawaken your soul's purpose. I'm your host, Celine DaCosta, a subconscious mind expert, master coach, and believer in the limitless power and magic that lives within all of us. My intention in this podcast is to propel you into your next level of success so that you are free to create the life that your heart most desires. Through deep, actionable insights, personal stories, and world-class guests, I'll provide you with the tools, strategies, and resources you need to unlock the fullest expression of who you're meant to be in this lifetime so that you can consciously design a reality that is beyond what you could have ever dreamed of. Join me on this journey to personal growth and evolution, and let's live our lives in accordance with our highest soul's calling. This podcast is your weekly check-in to help this path become more simple, obtainable, and fun. Thank you for tuning in today. And now let's dive in. Hello, familia. Welcome back to It's Not What You Think. Today is a special episode because it is actually going to be a session where you get to be a fly on the wall and watch me get mentored by my dear friend, Veronica Romney, who is an incredible leadership expert, an international speaker, podcast host, and the creator and CEO of the Rainmaker Residency programs. Now, before I go more into how I met you, Veronica, do you want to just say hello and briefly introduce yourself?
Hi guys. Okay, this is also, by the way, a first for me, not just for you. So we were talking before we even pushed record that we're a little nervous to do this on the air as opposed to like behind the scenes of this type of work. So I'm here for the ride. Thank you.
So I originally met Veronica a few years ago. A friend referred me to her because I was in those growing pains of my business where you're transitioning from being, a solopreneur to actually having a company with a team. And
Mhm.
I had hired Veronica to help me to design my dream team for my company and really get super clear on what my role was, what my zone of genius was, and were the right people that I needed to have on my team. And it's so cool, when you have these moments where I was thinking, I don't know, like 2-3 years ago, and you have this moment of fast forward to today, and I have an incredible team, and all those things I was so scared and worried about and was freaking out on Veronica about have resolved themselves, which reminds me that when we do the work, progress happens. And so,
Mhm.
why we're here today is I was recently catching up with Veronica a few weeks ago, and I was sharing with her about the huge transition that I've been going through in my business, which I've recorded other podcast episodes on, which I'll share in the show notes. But I've been talking about this a lot around this just really, really big uh, change that's been happening both individually, me, collectively. I've heard many colleagues, many friends, and maybe you can speak into this as well, Veronica. There's like some really big shit going on right now with people
Uh-huh.
just realizing that the ways that they're doing business is not in full alignment with who they're becoming anymore. There's just been a change. And as I've been personally navigating this change, I found it to be really invaluable to have people who I trust, who I care about, and who care about me help me see the things that I can't see, because you can't really see the bottle from the inside. You can't see the label from the inside of the bottle.
Mhm.
And so Veronica's one of these people, and it's actually one of her zones of genius and one of her specialties to support people with this transition, to support people with really creating a much more aligned positioning. And we just said, you know what? Why don't we just record this so that anyone who's listening and anyone who's been going through a big transition in their life, their business, who's currently in the void, who's currently figuring out, how do I reposition myself? I used to be this person, but now I'm not anymore, and I'm growing into something new. How do I literally like turn the ship around? And I volunteered to be the guinea pig. So I'm going to be here today and I'm going to open up my kimono and y'all are going to see lots of stuff. And we're gonna show you how it's done. Instead of talking to you about it, we're just gonna show you. So I'm gonna hand it over to you, Veronica. Like you're gonna be
Awesome.
leading the rest of the. Now that I've introduced, you are the leader. And if you could also share with us about this transition, because everyone's like quietly talking about it, but people are not freaking talking about it. So can we just say it out
Yeah.
loud? What's happening?
Okay, so let's give context to where we were and where we are today, because I think that's radically important. Because you and I are both, I think, in high proximity to both our colleagues, our friends in the industry, but also our clientele. And so, what's interesting is like during the pandemic, for example, we all experienced something collectively as a whole. No one could evade what was happening. It's interesting because it's like we're not going through this crisis, this health crisis, this global pandemic. But in some ways we're going through like an identity pandemic where people are like, I call it a global crisis, a sense of self that they are seeking to understand. And it's really challenging. And it's interesting how we got here. Do you know what I mean? Like we were a normal society and then we all isolated and like went into this vacuum of just like keeping to ourselves. And then we popped back out and had revenge vacationing. We couldn't get a passport fast enough. We just like free, like, and you are a great example of that because I mean, every time I follow you on Instagram, I'm like, where in the world is Lane today? Like, it's just, where in the world is Carmen, San Diego? Like, you are a free bird. You're all over the place. And so you have even more proximity to what's happening on a global sense. But what I've come across working with my clients is even in spite of no longer being isolated or confined to the four corners of your home, they still don't have a better sense of who they want or who they are in the sense of what part of themselves they want to show up in. And so now integrity is important to me. Like I'm an Enneagram 8, if you don't know me yet, but
The
like, so
challenger?
integrity is kind of, huh?
Is that the challenger?
That's yes, of course.
That's
Yes,
me. I'm an
100%.
I'm an A
Yeah.
too.
Oh,
How
yeah,
funny.
definitely. I have all the things. I'm oldest daughter, Virgo, 8, like all the things. And so integrity and values, I know all of us have values, but like integrity is a really big part for me. And integrity just means that you are completely congruent with yourself. There's no fissure in your being. And so when I'm counseling and consulting with private clients and I can feel that they're not being congruent with themselves. I'm like, not only are you not being congruent with yourself, you don't know what version to be congruent with. And therefore you're actually feeling almost like a corrosion of their integrity from the inside out, which makes them want to play much smaller on things like social media or marketing efforts. Like it's really difficult to put yourself out there when you're like, I'm not even comfortable in what part of myself I want to show up in. So this has been a really interesting situation because it's coming from the people that are some of the most highly visible brands that you can imagine. These women, I feel like 75% of my client are female, 25% male. And I'm seeing it on both ends, but because I work with so many female personalities, like you guys would be shocked. They have 40 million download podcasts. They have, best-selling books. They have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. But, like, in a private room, in a house, like, they're going up the stairs crying because they're just not congruent with themselves, and they don't know what part of themselves, right, to what is the most authentic. Now, this is interesting, and I know this is what you and I were kinda talking about on Voxer, 'cause we're friends on Voxer, so we're kinda voxing back and forth, and you're like, "I'm feeling this too."
Mm.
And I'm like, "Well, let's normalize it. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong." I think that 2024 is in a very interesting year for many reasons. One, people aren't behaving, the buyer behaviors have radically changed. Like it almost like defies logic because in some regards, we're still seeing people spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to go see Taylor Swift in Paris, but then they'll say no to a $30,000 program or even a membership that's like, $50 a month. And so, like, we are still seeing high spending, but then we're in the digital space, in the online space, we're not seeing high spending. We're seeing a lot more buyer discernment. And I think that's a ramification of trust being broken. Like, if politicians in the highest positions of power are blatantly lying to the public, we are also seeing that when it comes to online providers or online personalities where they bought the course that was supposed to change their life and it didn't. They joined the 30, 50, whatever $1,000 mastermind that ended up hurting them. They have some form of workplace trauma. Like it's really interesting. And so I think a lot of buyers, not only is their trust decreased, their discernment increased, but it's kind of like you're guilty until proven innocent. And so, like, if you used to be able to close a deal in one call, that's kind of out the window now. It's like a much longer, sales cycle, a much longer courting process to make sure that you
Mm.
can earn somebody's trust. So I just want to kind of paint the picture of what's happening in an industry, but also I think in a global sense of where we are and how it's affecting us. So let's start with that,
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
least from my perspective.
Mhm.
Um, can I start to ask you some
Mm.
questions?
Yeah,
Can we get
before
into
you
it?
do, I just wanted to share one thing that you're
Please.
saying, and um, which might relate to the question you're going to ask, but which is, I'm so glad that you are speaking into what's happening on a collective and global level, because what I have observed with myself, my colleagues, my clients, is that there's been a bit of a panic at the
Mhm.
disco of like, what's wrong with me?
Mhm.
And what was it? Why?
Mhm.
There's a lot of been actually, and this is what I find, especially I work with a lot of empathic women, a lot of heart
Mhm.
centered women, really good integral women. And, it's kind of sad and frustrating that those are the first ones that will like go inwards and attack self instead of being like, maybe, like the marketing bros are much more easier to be like, well, statistically speaking, this is happening on a global level, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I'm going to keep doing the thing that I'm doing. But I've noticed
Mhm.
that there is this that there has been this like sentiment of something's wrong with my business, something's wrong with me, or I'm not doing enough. And but it's important. That doesn't mean to overlook whatever needs to be shifted in your business, whatever does need to be improved. It's always important to keep a pulse on metrics, to keep a pulse on performance, innovation, and all those things, and also to be aware of what's happening in a larger collective scale. And I feel that the incongruence that's been really quietly whispering in the past 6 months, and it's just getting louder and louder and louder, which is what brought me to you as well. It hasn't been so much of a feeling of me not being happy. It's more of a
Love it.
feeling of the business model that I've built not being something that previous me was really like, this is amazing, this is the dream. But who I am today and who I'm becoming, and the shifts in my value system that I am having in my identity, it feels like almost like the business I've built is too fast paced. It's too like in the old paradigm. It's built on values that are no longer predominant, and belief systems that I've cleared, and emotional decisions of which the trauma I've also cleared. And I found myself in this position where I feel I've outgrown the business model and the positioning and all those things we're going to dive into today. I've grown it so much that I'm like, I don't even, there's a disconnect, but I love my service and I love the work that I do. And I know it's what I'm meant to do. So it's more this question of how do I shapeshift this thing so that
Mhm.
it's holding me now and the evolution of me that's coming, as opposed to keeping me stuck in my past self. And that's where that incongruence is. It's like this, like, I feel like I'm wearing this tight itchy sweater that I used to love, but now I'm like, I need a I need a new sweater. I need like something that fits me better. So that's the piece. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's dive into this because there are two trends that I see when working with clients. One, client A is they have been widely successful in niching down, planting their flag, and being known as the thing. So, like being known as the Facebook ads queen, being known as the burnout coach queen, being known as the parenting expert. And because they niched down and went all in and was like unapologetic about being known for this one particular field or expertise or the service or a product that you like kind of just went all in on, that client doesn't want to be known for that thing anymore.
Mhm.
So I have one type of client that's like, yes, I'm amazing at Facebook ads. I've been doing it for 10 freaking years. Nobody comes close to what I know about this platform, how to work it. But if I have to talk about Facebook ads one more time, I wanna scream. So I have some clients, 50% of my clients are in this bucket of, like, they've outgrown their niche, but they don't know how to make the jump into being known for something much broader
Mm.
without completely, obliterating their revenue streams because they're not funded from like angel investors or VCs. So like, how do I keep money coming in from the niche that made me, but I don't actually ever want to talk about it anymore. I'm so done with it. So I have a really good friend who I'm using her as an example. She's really good at Facebook ads, but she's like, I'm just done talking about it. Like, I don't want my whole life to be associated and attached to Meta. Like, that's, I'm not a Meta employee. I don't want to be at the mercy of Meta and anything, everything, all the time. And she's really into leadership, and she's really into being, resilient and what it means to be a resilient leader. And she wants to explore that. That's amazing. That's beautiful. There's no money, not yet. And so how do you bridge the gap between the niche that's making you paying your bills and the thing that you want to explore that's still wildly unvalidated, but you feel the calling? Right, and everybody feels the calling in different ways. Sometimes it's like a God thing. So she'll say, like, God speaks to me in my shower head. Like, he just rains upon her in the shower, these things, these inspiration. Other people, like when I'm working out or when I'm dreaming at 4 a.m, like these little drops from the universe or from God, whatever you prescribe to or subscribe to, I should say. But like, they come. And so not knowing how this new thing can replace the revenue of the previous thing, the previous boat that she's been sailing on, is terrifying. So that's like 50% of my clients, right? The other analogy to give context or to help, personify this idea is like, almost like, when political candidates, like they'll win, mayor, or they'll win governor of a state. There's a big jump between winning a state election versus winning the United States of America or an entire country. Like, right, the diversity of buyers is way different than just, your local town or your local district or your local state. So there's this jump that needs to happen from here to here. Okay. The other 50% of my clients, they actually don't mind being known for the thing. So like, let's take a burnout coach. Like, no, or fitness. I think fitness is a really good example. Like, I have, one of my previous private clients is one of the most successful fitness models ever. Like, she competes well into her 50s and beats 20 something girls. And her mother is also in her 80s and looks better than 99% people walking on the street. It's wild. Like, her husband has been a world champion. She's been a world champion. Her mom has been on countless magazines. Like, we're not deviating from the fitness. Like, we're not deviating from health, fitness models, strength. None of that's changing. But the business that she created is suffocating her every single day. She's pulling in like 16-hour days. She works 7 days a week. Just to even walk away from the business is like catastrophic. Like, the model that she created or the services that she's rendering is no longer lifestyle friendly, to say the least, and it's slowly killing her. And so she doesn't know how to then, this is more of an offer suite issue, which is like, well, how else can I serve the world in a way that I'm not killing myself every day? Because I still have a passion, an undeniable passion for what it is that I do, but how I'm doing it sucks. And so now that's terrifying too, because you've built this machine, you've built this monster, and to close it down or to do something different would potentially upset all of her very loyal ambassadors, very loyal, customers. And so there's the fear of upsetting those that she's already served and trying to pursue something maybe different in a different way. So that's kind of like the two clients have come to me really in the last 6 months to 12 months in 2023 and 2024. I'm probably also in that second bucket where, like, I've been a marketer going on 17 years, and I still love marketing. Like, other than my husband, it's like the most committed relationship I've ever been in, and I love it deeply. And I can't see the world outside of that lens. Like, whether I'm watching a debate or I'm watching a concert or I'm watching literally bubblegum, like, I see the world from a marketing lens. I always have a marketing perspective or take. I can't help myself. I'll be at dinner and I'm like, oh, you know what you could do? Like, it's just like, it's always generating for me on behalf of myself or for other people. But I've been a marketer in all the ways. I've been a marketer in all the ways. I've been a speaker, I've been a workshop facilitator, I've been a group program host, I've been a private consultant, I've been a service provider solo, I've been an agency owner. Like I've exercised marketing in many different facets, but I'm still here 17 years later, loving marketing, loving branding, loving all things art and science that is getting people ethically persuading people to say yes to you, right? So, just to give context to your listeners, where do you feel like you fall? Like if you let's zoom in on you. Talk to me about where you are at and when did it really start, the friction and the white noise really start to get loud for you?
Yeah. So I would say I am more in the first category, in the sense that when I started my business and started my career, I really took off niching into brand storytelling.
Okay.
So I became known as the brand story person. And, I quickly worked with some very significant influencers in the industry, delivered some incredible results. I was very good at it. I still am. And just, yeah, it was the brand, how to teaching people how to tell their story in a way that's really empowering, inspiring, and draws in exactly the kind of people that they want to reach is one of my zones of genius. And now it's weird to say, because it's not like it's not my zone of genius anymore. It's not that I'm like I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's just that I felt that as I've developed myself and as I worked with clients, I realized that the brand story piece was just a little piece of why they were actually coming to me. Because when I worked with them behind the scenes, it wasn't just about show me how to tell my story, but it was pieces around their stories that they were carrying shame around, and
Mhm.
fears of being judged, fears of putting themselves out there. It wasn't really about I want to be visible. It was about I feel like I'm not seen behind closed doors because of my childhood, because of my background patterns. And so in order for me to serve my brand story clients at the level at which I was able to serve them, I had to get really good at subconscious reprogramming, at understanding how the human system works, the mind, how mindset, belief systems work, how the emotional body, emotional regulation works, how trauma works in the body, how to release stuck energy in the body. And my skill set started to grow and grow and grow and grow to the point where, some of my clients have been with me for years and we're not working on brand storytelling after 3 years. We're solving much bigger problems. We're looking at dynamics that they have with their relationships at home. We're looking at friction that they're having in their company, in their team, how to resolve, how to deal with a really difficult contractor, how to deal with a really difficult team, how to take care of the self and have more time and space to do the things you love. It became much more holistic. So about 2 years ago, I would say almost 2 years ago, I started to feel it's been like a little crack that just has been getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and more uncomfortable. So about 2 years ago, I said, oh, okay, well, let me start talking about some of the other things that I'm passionate about. And I ran into a pickle, like what you're sharing about the Facebook ads person, where
Mhm.
I was talk about it, but then it's like, ooh, this isn't really my bread and butter revenue generator. And so I'd go here and I would like get a little bit of success and then I'd be like, and then I come back to my comfort zone. And then I step out again, come back to my comfort zone, step out again, come back to my comfort zone. And it started to become increasingly frustrating because what I've noticed, and again, my pride and joy is brand story, is that through my go in hiding, put myself out there, go in hiding, do it again, I have diluted my brand. My own brand story has diluted, um, and I've went in a few different directions. And I stepped out of my niche box into the general box, and there's like that part of me that's like, I just want to go back into the comfort of my niche box because that was working really well for me. But it's not because that door is closed. So now I'm just scrambling in like the wild, wild west, being like, where's my next box? And
Mhm.
that's what it feels like. And I'm
Mhm.
sure that that's not the only solution, but I just felt like I went more generic and it fell flat.
Mhm.
And my intention is to focus and redirect myself to what it is that I'm really passionate about. Like you in marketing, I love storytelling. It's like, but I need to expand. Like you said, I've been a speaker, I've been this, I've been that. It's just been too narrow for me. I need to expand, but at the same time, stay relevant and stay smart with what I'm doing so that it's intelligent marketing and it's intelligent positioning, which I lost a little bit of sight of in my explorations.
Okay. So let's play. Let's explore. Okay. So, because I'm on your website right now, actually, and literally your big tagline is become the best story you've ever told. Start the journey now, right? And then they
Mhm.
can get access to your free masterclass, how to create an audience of highly engaged buyers through irresistible storytelling. So, you are clearly, let me see, and you have your Amy Porterfield testimonial, and you have some big faces and names, just like you were mentioning before. And then at the bottom, this is where we start to get into, I think, your newer self, because you're like, what if your soul called you here for a reason? Because if I were to analyze just the top portion of your website, I'm like, oh, this is like Donald Miller, female version. And I'm saying this not in any type of disrespect. I'm saying this in the brain immediately tries to associate you with something I already understand so I can burn less mental calories to figure this out.
Mhm.
So if I were just to say the top side of your website, become the best story you've ever told, and then understanding your hook on your free masterclass, I'm thinking, oh, she's in the category of Donald Miller, how to build a story brand. She might be in the category of Matthew Dix from Moth. He's won
Mhm.
like the Moth Slam, like I don't even know, 36 times. I'm thinking Kendra Hall, who's also a really well known storyteller, big keynote speaker, stories. I think it's called Stories That Stick. Um, so I'm immediately putting you in a story bucket with other providers that I know that also have some, especially visibility and recognition. But then as I go down, and again, I'm just skimming because that's what people do. They skim before they read like the full body paragraphs. So once I get to the second half of your website and it goes, what if your soul called you here for a reason? And there's this beautiful kind of like, it almost looks like a tarot card
Mhm.
where it's her back looking into the moon and she's like full of diamonds or crystals. You know what I mean? You desire to get crystal clear on the next step of your soul's journey. You take laser focused action, create the life you desire. Now I'm no longer in the storytelling box for me. Now I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm immediately got confused because I'm like, wait, 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 wait. Because if we're in this category, now I want to put you in the Gabby Bernstein category, the Kathy Hiller category. I want to start putting you in other providers that are talking about like, I don't want to call it woo, but like the woo box, right? Of
Mhm.
like gifts and tricks of like, what's your soul's purpose and do you know who you are? Um, let's see, but you still refer to yourself as a story alchemist. So that's the
Mhm.
title that is that something I want to actually ask you about that? Is that something that was appointed to you by somebody you worked with, or is that something that you cleverly gave to yourself in a marketing sense?
Both. I had tons of clients, like tons of testimonials. You're a story magician, you're a
Mm-hmm.
wizard, you're just some variation of you do magic with when it comes to storytelling. And then I forget if it was a conversation or if it was my own, but somehow it emerged. It's like, oh, you're doing like story alchemy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think where the disconnect is from the top half of your website to the bottom half of your website is like the first half, it's like you're basically giving me a form, you're helping me communicate.
Mhm.
Now, story is just a medium. There's lots of ways that you can communicate, but you're choosing the medium of storytelling as a means in which I can better communicate. Period, right? Like in its most simplistic form. But the second half of your website, you're not helping me communicate. You're actually helping me know myself, my truest self, and
Mm.
shed. So, do you see how that's like almost like two companies, two separate
Mhm.
providers on the same page? So, I'm not surprised why there could be some confusion. Um,
Mm.
is that validating or not validating, or at least from what you've
Yeah,
experienced?
it's, when I haven't touched my website since 2 years ago, and that's just around the time where I started to feel that inner friction.
Mhm, mhm,
So I would not be surprised, this is how the subconscious works, if in the building of the website, I had, like,
mhm,
that split
Mhm.
in the past, and then the split, this is where I'm going, like actually being unconsciously translated into the way that the website was structured. And to be fully transparent, it still feels like that split is there. And I still feel like I haven't fully chosen the direction that I want to be going in. So, but I'm ready to, which is why we're
Okay,
here.
so let's keep exploring. So, the person that books you on like a free consult call or whatever, or like an exploratory discovery call from the first half of your page is probably gonna have a very different intake call with you versus the person that might have been converted on the second half of your page. So, when we get on phone calls with prospects, what are they telling you they want and what are they telling you they seek to avoid? For
Mm.
both of those categories, I wanna write that down on my paper. So, what's happening in the storytelling bucket versus the soul bucket? What do they want? What are they trying to avoid? What's the carrot? What's the stick?
Yeah, really interesting. Even when you mirror that back, because I realize that when I look at my clientele, they do fall
Mhm,
into buckets. And those are it. These
mhm.
are it, which would not be, shocking. The
Yep.
storytelling bucket, the main desires are I want to be known and more seen in my brand. I feel like I'm not expressing myself. So
But for what? For money? Because it's business goals, business
it's
aspirations,
it's
or is
business
this like
it's business aspiration, but it's important to note that regardless of what bucket they come, my people are highly self-aware. And so they might be coming in and saying, "Oh, I want to create a story," but they know better than just to say, "So I can make more money." They know in their words, it's very common in the forums to say, "I feel like I have some mental blocks. I feel like there's some trauma in there that's not allowing me to fully express myself the way I need to." But the business goal is to be more visible, is to get seen in their industry. It's to learn how to tell their story in a way that feels empowering and attracts the right people to them. And it's to overcome the fear of being judged, the fear of being put down, and to really speak their truth. And there's that desire for authentic expression. It's very present.
okay.
So yes, there's a desire to be featured on Forbes, to be on that
Uh-huh.
TEDx. There's a
Uh-huh.
desire to grow their Instagram following,
Yeah,
to grow their business as a result of that. All of those are the more tangible, practical business desires. But I wouldn't say for the most part that I attract people who only see that and do not recognize that there's some mindset work that needs to be done.
understood. Understood. But, when let me write this down before I forget, but yes. Okay. So let's do your soul category. So people that come to you not necessarily for storytelling communication skills,
Mm,
but when they come to you on the second half of your page about their soul's purpose and destiny and potential, what's the carrot? What's the stick? What do they want? What are they trying to
mhm,
avoid or
mhm.
eliminate?
Yeah. So, what they're trying to avoid, I'll start with that, is how they feel inside. So, this is the classic corporate executive working way too many hours, juggling multiple things in their life, feeling like they're always coming last in their own life. And also feeling like they're working and doing all these things, but they're not really um, doing what they really want to be doing in life. And there's something that's missing. That's the big thing. Like something's missing, something isn't quite fully there. And what they want is they want more time, spaciousness. They want to live a more enriching lifestyle. So it's less about the business and it's more about the kind of life that they want to live. They also want to thrive. All of them in either categories. I attract very ambitious people. They want to thrive, but it's more so. I've already made all this money. I have all these titles to my name, and somehow, even though I've acquired all of these accolades and achievements, I still don't feel like I'm showing up as who I am. And again, that theme of authentic expression coming through. And yeah, they want more time. They want to feel more balanced at work. They want to feel happier within themselves, and they want to, not just have the money and have the accolades and have the success, but feel holistically in balance.
I'm a little confused. So we're gonna ping pong back and forth a little bit because again, I want to really understand who it is that you're serving, and if I'm confused, then I need to ask the questions. I don't want to advise you ill. So, for example, your story people, they want to be known, they want to be visible, they want to be seen in the industry. Of course, an authentic expression is their value that they like. They're not going to just be like, well, AI is popular, so I'm just going to be known as AI. Let's position me as an AI person. Like, they're not, I get what you're saying, which is like, I want to be authentically seen, visible, and known. And also, I would say increase their sense of status because that's what all of that means. Like, I'm here, but I want to increase my status so that more opportunities could come, like a Forbes feature, like a TEDx opportunity, like a Today Show feature or whatever, right? So, in your story category, the way that I heard you describe this person is basically this is kind of a return on investment for them. They want this is a business endeavor, at least it seems like at first.
Mhm.
Not that it doesn't have immediate ramifications in their personal lives, but they're gonna write this off on a business credit card,
Mhm.
unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay. Now in the soul category, you talked a lot about lifestyle and career, and it's not like and you I think the kind of where I got a little confused is like these people already made it. Maybe they already have all of these accolades. Maybe they've already been featured in Forbes. Maybe they've already done a TED Talk. Maybe they're already a VP of $100 million software company and they hate it or they don't like it or like, is this all there is? Like, oh, like I did the things. I rung the ladder. I rang the bell. I climbed the rope or whatever. And uh, like, is that all there is to it? That's
Mhm.
a very different state and position and time than your story people who are trying to even come close to that. Is that true or not? Or did I mishear, misread what you said?
Yes, and I would say my story people are, for example, if I think about my story people, a lot of them are like multi seven, even eight figure entrepreneurs. So it's not that my story people haven't gotten to this latter bucket.
Mhm.
Some of them have, but they're not like, oh, what more is there to do? It's more so, how do I get my story out? How do I actually amplify my impact in a bigger, different way? Um, so and, in both buckets, I have I've had really experienced people and I've had really new people. So, new people
Mhm.
being like, "Oh, if the brand story thing is going to be the thing that gets me known." And in that latter bucket is I wanna build a business that, um, I don't like the way I'm living, but again, the income's lower than that, and they haven't accomplished the things, but they are unhappy with not being on their sole purpose. So, those are the nuances in there, but yes, I would say that they have different objectives. That would be correct. They have different things they're focusing on that they desire.
Well, and your story people are like I said, this is a business credit card expense. Is your soul people a business expense or is this a personal expense?
Well, thinking about the people in the past, you could call it executive coaching because it is helping with
Mhm.
performance.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
even though a lot of things that aren't, what's challenging about it is that if I'm working, I'm thinking of a couple executives that I recently worked with, and yeah, we're talking about personal things, but we're also talking about the ways that they're communicating with their team. Where, a more practical example would be they're feeling really unhappy because, they're in a toxic team dynamic. And part of the
Mhm.
coaching is to help them understand what's going on in their internal landscape that is causing them to react to team members who they can't change. What are the conversations that they need to be having with their boss? What are the ways that they need to be handling conflict in real time in a boardroom? But ultimately, we have to look at the communication patterns that come from their own childhood. We have to look at
Totally.
the
Totally.
ways that they lack communication skills, and
Totally.
that would be called personal. But it translates into something that does impact their professional life.
No, no, no. I totally understood completely. But I want to know who's paying the bill. Is this being run on a personal credit card or is the company paying this for them?
Mm, it would be mostly their expenses. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So, um, That's really important that we have to notate this. Because and I know that seems, maybe it seems obvious, maybe it doesn't seem obvious, but like when I'm working with people, if you're listening, right? When you're working with people, you have to know where they're pulling the funds from, because where they pull the funds from is, it brings with it a set of rules and expectations. So if I am at, literally, I was telling you right before we push record, my 7-year Dell laptop died. Died. I'm like still mourning it. It's so wild. It's been so good to me. But my water bottle in my backpack completely flooded the whole backpack and it died. So I like got a MacBook Air 2 days ago and I'm like freaking out because I don't know any, all the short keys are just like, like I feel very much like a novice. Um, but when I went to Best Buy, is this a personal card or is this a credit? Is this my Chase business card or is this my Marriott Visa, or, my Amazon Visa or whatever, my personal cards? And the reason that and I mean, they asked me the same question, like, do you have a business account? Do you want to have a business account? Like, same thing when I go to the furniture store. Is this a personal furniture expense for my home? Is this my personal couch or is this a couch for my rental property? Because whatever card I'm taking out to swipe brings with it expectations and a set of different rules and values, I think, also associated with it. When I'm buying a personal couch for my house, a totally different vibe than when I'm trying to buy like a couch for the rental property that can stand the test of time by the beach with the dog and all the things.
Mm.
So that's why I wanted to ask that question, because your story people, they're buying from you because it's a business expense and they're hoping there's a business return on investment. But your soul people, it seems like they're seeking this solution outside of the walls of their existing corporate entity
Mhm.
and possibly running it on their personal credit card if they haven't established an LLC for themselves. But now I want to dig into the soul people a little bit more, because you also mentioned that they are entrepreneurial in some regards, because what you were sharing too is like they're possibly even contemplating leaving their job to do their own thing, or
Mhm.
is that not true?
They're not all executives. I would say about half of them are, and
Okay.
the ones who are executives, most of them are also entrepreneurial, as in they
Mhm,
have
mhm,
their
mhm,
job and then they have a
mhm,
side
mhm.
business.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. That's interesting. Okay. So automatically, this is where we're having some friction. You trying to target both of these very different people on one website.
Mhm.
So immediately, marketing assets are matching up your different buyer personas from a marketing standpoint. Now I'm going to ask you a really honest question. I don't know how much you want to say this on the podcast, but I need to know. So wink once or wink twice.
Mhm.
But who do you enjoy working with? And I know the answer is all of the above. And the truth is, you're such a pro that you can
Mhm.
work with all of them.
Mhm.
But which phone call and the nature of the phone call, or the nature of the Voxer, or the nature of the coaching extension is like where you walk away more lit up because you had it than more depleted because you gave it?
That's a really good question that I will answer honestly, no winks. Um, I just noticed I'm gonna answer it and then there's friction in my desire
The
to answer it.
resistance is coming.
There's resistance for sure, but I will just
Yeah.
say what my heart wants to say, and then we can workshop it from there. Not what my ego's like, but,
Yeah.
um, I really enjoy working with the people
Mhm,
who want to make their life better, who want to
mhm,
become better people, whether
mhm,
that is in business or life or their relationship, but they want to improve themselves
mhm.
and whose focus is on growth and evolution rather than how much they're struggling.
Uh-huh.
It's not about I don't have this and I'm struggling with this and what do I do with my
Mm.
life, which is all okay to have those moments, but there's people who can get very attached to the narrative of how much they're struggling and how bad things are. But I'm not like it's taking from when I need to just sit there in a session and mostly just soothe them on how they're going to be okay, and
Mhm.
it's giving too. when someone comes to me and says, I feel like I'm in constantly having issues with my team, what kind
Mhm.
of leader do I need to be for me to show up and attract a different person? There needs to be a sense of radical self accountability, which is
Mhm.
why when we look at, for example, the story bucket, yes, I love helping people tell their story, and that's something that naturally happens within my long-term containers anyway. Like, it's really hard for
Mhm.
any client to work with me for more than 6 months and to get away with not doing story work because I treat storytelling as a healing modality. So
Yes.
it's gonna get done. Like, we will be doing the story work. It might not be within a 3-month framework with this kind of result for everybody, but it's gonna happen because it's in my toolkit of modalities that I use to support people in their own self-discovery and healing. But what I truly, truly lights me up is being a mentor, coach, advisor to people who are here, leaders who are here to like actually make a dent. And they're not going to sit in the illusion of, I'm going to make a change by pushing out, but rather are emotionally sober to the reality that that change happens when they change inside.
Totally.
So that's the person that I'm really passionate about
Yeah.
working with, which have seen both in both categories. And the reason why I resist that, the little ego voice, me, that came in my
I
head
don't know if I
when
recognize
you asked me
that
that,
sound. Exactly.
I've got tons of
Cute.
sound.
Chipmunk.
The little ego voice that came through was, yeah, but that's not a business card expense. And who the fuck is going to
Mhm.
hire you at your current rates
Mhm.
if you're like, if they can't like ROI it? And the storytelling angle is such a good angle because, like you said, you can put it on your credit card and there's an ROI, and I can point to all the results that I've gotten people. Here's all my testimonials, da 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 da. And why wouldn't I do that? But again, that's exactly why I've stayed in that box for as long as
Totally.
I've stayed because of that
Totally.
story.
Totally. Well, and I mean, the truth of the matter is the story bucket is way more tangible and easier to understand. End of story. Like it just is. Um,
That's why I'm
I
attached to
think.
it.
Well, yeah, it's easy. It's an easy pursuit. It's an easy category. There's a ton of male providers in it. You're a female provider, which is exciting. Like I could give you a whole. I could argue all day long. What are you doing? Just stay there, make all the money. I could,
Mhm.
but I'm not. I'm not going to because I don't care. I don't. I also, and you and I both prescribe. I mean, I believe in abundance. Damn it, and I believe that there's so many ways in which you can help and serve and make a ton of money. And again, money to me is not the root of all evil. Is not money to me. Like money is a tool to do charitable contributions to help your family. I mean, like money is a great thing in the hands of good people. So good people need to have
Mm.
more money, period. So, yes, could you make buckets of money to do buckets of good if you just were to stay in your story niche? 1,000, obviously. But I want you to look forward to Monday when you have 5 calls on your calendar instead of saying, "Shit,
Mm.
I have 5 calls on my calendar." It's 5 calls with people who are ready to like level the F up,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
want you to enjoy your life. So when you're in Italy doing awesome things, or you're in Dublin, or you're here, or you're there, you don't if I'm taking you away from the beautiful castles of Scotland, it's worth it because he's called light you up.
Mm. Mhm.
If
Yeah.
not, you have 5 story calls on your calendar when you know you could be eating this incredible pizza and gelato in Italy with your dad, and you know what I mean? Like, what the hell? Like, if I'm gonna take you away from the beauty of the world, it has to be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, just to for the story piece, it's like what keeps coming up for me is what you shared about marketing. It's like I love story. I'm in the process of editing my next book. Like I love speaking. It's such a passion of mine. It's more so that right now where my expansion is in
Totally.
helping people rewrite their internal story. And
Totally.
it's less about
Totally.
that tangibility, but
Totally.
I'm still in the storytelling
Okay.
um,
I'm
you
ready.
know, bucket, just bigger.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay.
So here's the cool thing. You can have both. But again, it's a strategic repositioning. So again, I used the analogy earlier in this conversation about like, political candidates. I think it's relevant because it's 2024. But like winning a state election, you really anchor yourself in state policies or state issues. When you go for president, prime minister of a bloody country. Now all of a sudden you have to be well versed in all domestic issues and also now foreign issues. So like you have to expand. You used the word toolkit like maybe 2 minutes ago. You have to expand your breadth. You have to expand your toolkit that you're offering the world in which they then vote for you. So we're going to do the same thing with you. We're not going to you don't I think what the misconception for anybody that might be listening is who you are and who you have been does not need to be abandoned for you to pursue something that's calling you more. We're not going to abandon your past self. In fact, we're going to move it forward in a way more sophisticated way, which is very exciting to me. For example, if your original brand was like, I'm going to help you communicate better, and doing so the way that I do it, my intellectual property, my unique methodology, my trademarkable isms is through the modality of storytelling. Because that's really what you're saying. I will help you communicate through, you're like, that's the promise. Yay. How do I do that? Well, it's not going to be artistic dancing or like interpretive dancing. It's not miming. No, it's the art and science of storytelling. That is the means to the end. But the end is what I'm paying you for, which is better communication skills. Because if I can communicate better, then I'll have better opportunities. Yay for business. Okay. With your soul work, you can either take the same promise and we can play with it. So for what I mean by that is like they come to you for what? The end result. And I also want to teach the listeners of this podcast. It's one of my favorite things that I teach. And I learned it from Pat Quinn. So I always give credit where credit is due. So Pat Quinn is a speaking coach that I've worked with, and I adore him. And he teaches this thing called is, does, means. Have we talked about this before? You and I? No?
No,
Okay.
this is new.
So is, does, means it's a practice of knowing what people really actually pay for. They don't ever pay for the is and the does, they pay for the means. So the example that you could use to illustrate the difference is Tylenol is an over-the-counter pain medication. That's what it is. What it does is it alleviates minor aches and pains or reduces fever. Like if you go to the website literally right now and type in Tylenol, it will say it is an over-the-counter medication. You don't need a prescription, and it alleviates minor aches and pains and reduces fever. Cool. That's not why people buy that stuff. Why do people buy Tylenol? Isn't I know you think, well, I have a headache, that's why I'm taking. No, no, no. You're taking Tylenol because you can't stop working, or you can't miss out on your daughter's music recital, or you can't have a disruption in your life, or you have to be in control of your health. Like, I take this because of the meaning and the implications that it gives me, not because of what it is and what it does. So, same thing for you in this new soul category and working with leaders. I love that. Working with, because a leader can be defined in many different ways, right? So, and what you're telling me is that they're hyper aware. So, like sometimes when I work with my clients, I'm like, you're a visionary. They don't even identify as a visionary, and it's a really struggle for them. Like, part of the big work that I do is like, you're a visionary CEO. The sooner that you can accept that and own that, the more the team will actually support you the way you need to be supported. But if you're still identifying as a team member, you won't ever be a leader. Right? Like your people seem, at least the way that you've described your people to me, is they are well aware that they are a leader. Like no one has to teach them that about themselves. So we're already calling out the right person by saying, hey, I sleep, work with leaders. But I work with leaders in all categories. I work with the leader in the job. I work with the leader in the business. I work with the leader in the home. I work with the leader in politics or the community. I work with people who are responsible for others. End of story. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So like that's your person. Now, what it is, what it does, what it means, their soul work, why they have to do this is because the implications is high stakes. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the opposite if they don't do this work? They're in high positions of importance and prominence. People are counting on them. Like, right, we're raising the stakes, raising the stakes, raising the stakes. These leaders, if they don't do the work with you, what's happening or what could happen if they don't do this work? Tell me.
The first thing is that they continue feeling unfulfilled, stressed, stuck, and like there's no way out. Because ultimately, all human beings, all we're searching for is an experience which makes us feel a certain way. So they
Yep.
continue to have the experience of being disconnected, unfulfilled, lacking meaning in their life, and therefore, which then creates unhappiness.
Mhm.
Um, their relationships suffer because of all of the
Mhm.
above. They are not showing up with the amount of presence, love, connection that they could be in their partnerships, with their children, with their team.
Mhm.
Their energy drops. So they do not have the vital life force energy to literally
Mhm.
perform and do the tasks that they need to do. This can
Yeah.
lead to lack of motivation. It can lead to burnout. It can lead to feeling like they're pushing without actually being. One of the most frustrating things is when you're taking the actions, but you're not seeing the results because they're not smart actions. Because you cannot
Mhm.
take smart actions if you aren't at a certain level of emotional sobriety when it comes to your decision making, which means that if you're fatigued, gassed, not feeling good, and then you make a decision as a leader from that space, that results in a poor decision. I think a lot of leaders can relate that when you make poor decisions versus the best decisions you make, there's like, can you even quantify the ROI of a good decision versus a mediocre one? So those are a few of the ways that they are missing out. It translates into their physical health, which can practically look like not enough sleep, not drinking enough water, not feeding their body what their body actually needs to sustain itself, to do that level of work, to handle that level of responsibility as a high performer. And it translates into their mental health, which looks like constant overthinking, the belief systems of not feeling good enough, feeling like they need to do more. It translates into emotional health, which looks like that constant feeling of perpetuating, like, chronic frustration, chronic anxiety, chronic stress. They all work
Mm.
together to basically create disease in the body. And
Okay.
and yeah, the consequences are really, really big of letting that
The
stand
stakes are high. I love
very
it.
high.
Okay. Anybody that's listening to this podcast, I hope that you're having the same experience that I'm having. It's very obvious how deeply you understand these people and what's at stake and what will be the almost guaranteeable result if they were to not move on this and not act and not do the work that you are inviting them to do with you. Now, I'm going to put my marketing lens on. I adore you, so I'm going to validate. And words of affirmation are my love language. So I'm just like, let me just validate the hell out of you, right?
Mhm.
But my marketing, so here I'm going to put my Rainmaker hat on for you, right? I'm your chief marketing officer for the next couple of minutes. The problem with everything that you just described, as true and valid as what you've said in these 6 or 7 different radical consequences: unfulfilled, stress, stock, relationship suffer, children, teen, energy drops, physical health, emotional, chronic disease, like, as horrific as this future is, there is no time sensitivity to it.
Oh my god, I know. This is what's killing me, Veronica. This
Mhm,
is this
mhm,
is like
mhm,
what you're touching on is the
mhm,
crux of my frustration with my positioning, because as a
mhm,
marketer, I'm like, how
mhm,
the F do I reach these people?
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and as just somebody who cares about people, like, and really sees the huge consequences this is having, not just on companies, but on the fucking world. I'm
Yeah,
really passionate about this, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know how
I
to
feel it. I feel
speak
it.
to this. And that's where I hit the wall.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, hold on, we
Okay,
can
good,
fix
good, good.
this.
Okay.
Okay. But that's the one thing, if anybody that's listening to this conversation, if you are also in the category where a lot of the negative side effects or consequences of not working with someone like you are in these incredible things that are very true, but they're never time sensitive. If it's not time sensitive, meaning there is not an acute moment in time when your bat signal goes up in the sky, and that's something that, like, I need to write this. I talk about the bat signal all the time, not because I'm a huge fan of, like, Gotham City, but it is, to me, such a beautiful representation of, like, Gotham's on fire. Somebody's getting robbed. Bat signal goes up. Celine gets called in. If
Mm,
you can't identify the acute bat signal moments in your marketing, then people will delay working with you, because I can live in chronic pain forever. You'd be shocked how many people will just literally Tylenol or ibuprofen that to oblivion.
oh
And
my
I
god.
can stay in a crappy marriage for years, and I can not be my true self at work forever and continue to wear the most masculine clothing and like to shield who I really am, just to make like people have this incredible ability to just be complacent,
Oof.
right?
Mm.
Complacency is the villain of your person. And if you can't articulate that in your copy and then also identify in your testimonials and also in the copy, when your bat signal goes up, one, they'll delay working with you and they won't pay you what you want to get paid. Now, the cool thing is because you've already worked with so many people, we don't have to guess. You and I would be having a very different conversation if you were a brand new provider and we had nothing, no social proof, no previous work history. Like we're making the best, guess, like almost like a scientist with hypothesis. We're hypothesizing and we're going to put it out there and see what happens. With you, you have potentially a treasure trove of information that as your rainmaker, right? Let's say I'm your rainmaker. The very next step that I would do in validating some of these ideas that are coming to me from this conversation is I would dive deep into any type of previous testimonials, any type of video recordings, or any type of surveys or new survey that we could actually survey your email list or survey your people because I need to know these things desperately. I need to know when the bat signal goes up. I need to know how they view their own complacency. You as an expert know they're being complacent or they're settling or add any other adjective or synonym in that, you know what I mean? That lane, that emotional palette that I'm talking about. But what words do they use? I don't think they're calling you and saying, I'm complacent. They're probably not saying that, even if it's true. So we have to make sure, and that's another thing that I want to say on this podcast to anybody that's listening. Like sometimes I think we put a lot of pressure to be these like really clever marketers. The truth is like great marketing is just listening and repeating. Great sales is mirroring. Like if somebody's across the table from me with their arms crossed and leaned back, you do the same freaking thing. Like that's great marketing too. If a mom is saying, I feel like I'm burning the candle on both sides, well, that better be in your sales copy. You don't have to make anything more clever because she told you how she feels. Your people have already expressed to you how they feel, especially if you're in. Do you record any of you or like you do the Meet Geek or the AI or the Otter of like any of your intake or sales calls or your first call with somebody, a client?
So I haven't had AI long enough to do that. I'm
Okay,
old
okay,
school, like
okay,
type
okay,
recordings. But I do
okay.
have. I remember polling. I did this just a month ago. I polled like the intake forms
Yes.
of like my top clients, my favorite clients from the past 8 years, and I pulled that, and then I did an AI I had AI analyze it and tell me what the patterns are. So I do have that.
Okay, cool. So we have, again, that we have, that's so exciting. So anybody who's listening, don't get deflated. If you're an established business owner, even if you've been just doing it a couple weeks, couple months, couple years, whatever, we have information that we can pull from. We don't have to be that clever. It takes the pressure off. I think that's why Taylor Swift is such a great storyteller in her lyrics, is because she listens to her Swifties. She has like a literal note on her phone where she's using these kind of lines, what I call little word truffles, because she picks them up while she's like living her life or talking to people. And she's just smart enough to capture it, damn it. Like she's a genius. She's one of the best marketers I know.
Mm.
Okay. So I'm getting excited because I feel like I'm having a lot more clarity. So what I mean by that is, so let me go back to what I was saying before about we don't abandon your story past, we bring it forward, but we're going to position it in a better toolkit, right? I love the word toolkit. I love that you said that. So you are wanting to work with hyper aware, extreme ownership, high stakes leaders who, again, when we can do a better job at articulate, how detrimental it is for them not to move and when the bat signal gets called. So like I say bat signal is like, does their spouse have to file for divorce for them to work with you? Is that when the bat signal goes? Is that how dire the situation has to be for them to be like, my gosh, I can't put this off? Like that's one of the things we have to identify. But I want to go back to remember how, let's take the story one because I just shared that. So before, your previous business identity was like, I help people communicate better through the art and science and the medium of storytelling.
Mhm.
In your soul work, I advise, coach, mentor, guide leaders in being their best selves or being a better version of themselves or being their most authentic selves, whatever, like, right? But what's the medium? So we have the big promise, the big is, does, means. It means, right? But now what is the pathway in achieving that? This is where you get to basically create new intellectual property. So think about it like I'm gonna do people watching this, can they see us?
Yeah, there'll be a YouTube,
But like,
a YouTube
okay, cool.
version so they can watch us
Perfect.
playing around.
Um, I'm like waving my hands around you guys like an idiot. So think of like a Venn diagram where you have one circle that overlaps another circle that overlaps another circle, and like the intersection is the genius, right? So you're gonna basically go through a process of creating new intellectual, trademarkable, proprietary methodology that includes story, but is not only the medium of story. Like you said, it's one of the things in your toolkit. And so now we get a chance to broaden your toolkit, but also claim it in a new intellectual property with that beautiful little TM that feels sexy. So
Mhm.
that's really, really, really cool. I'll give you another example. I had one of my dearest friends. I love her so much. She's a gift. She's a great coach. She has ADHD. She's super smart when it comes to managing neurodivergency. Like, she's one of the coaches inside of the Rainmaker Residency program, and she's one of my best friends. And I've worked with her for a long time. She also struggled with you because she's like, I used to be known as head of funnels for marketing stuff.
Mhm.
And now I'm very much, she's into tarot cards. She's into, burnout. She's done certifications. Like, she's definitely more in the woo. And I'm like, okay, but the thing with woo that struggles, that we have a hard time with that, is that it's not tangible. It's woo. And so how do we make what you're doing at all? Because again, she's like, I have a tool belt of stuff at any time. I can do constellations, I can do cards, I can do lots and lots of different things, but I meet the person in their moment. I'm like, you know what you remind me of? I'm like, you remind me of like functional medicine doctors. Like, your people that come to you know that traditional medicine is failing them. So they're hyper aware. They've already gotten to that realization. That paradigm shift has happened and occurred, but they're still struggling with health, or they're still struggling with things. And their blood work at the doctor didn't tell them that you know what I mean? Like, it's not working. And they're like, it's in your head. It's not in my head. I'm losing my hair. I have acne on my back. Like, what's happening? So then they start like, okay, well, functional medicine, they start exploring functional medicine, and great functional medicine doctors, they have lots of tools. They can do acupuncture, they can do this, they can do a variety of things. But I was telling Ash, I'm like, Ash, I feel like your solution is the equivalent of functional medicine. You are debunking, you are the alternative to traditional medicine, you are functional medicine. So anytime that you talk about your stuff, think about how functional medicine doctors have to explain what that is they do, because they're outside of the norm. They're outside of the conventional medicine route. So we came up with this like cool thing called practical woo. Like, she's not just woo, she's practical woo. And then she started doing, so genius. This was her. This was not me. She started calling them practical woo play dates as her like intake calls. So come play and explore. Anyways, I kind of feel like we have the opportunity with you to do something very similar. Not today, not until we harvest all of this rich customer data that we can get into. But one of the things I would immediately want to do with you in repositioning you bigger than just storyteller is creating IP that includes story, but only one of the circles is stories. What are the other circles that you could be known for? And then when the three of them or four of them are added together, what is the collective call? Because now that's what makes you like unlike anybody else, and it doesn't abandon your past. It takes your past forward in a bigger, more strategic way. Does that make sense?
It's actually funny because I talk about, I always call it practical magic. And I love that one of my gifts is being very grounded
Yep.
in these, woo, you can call them woo things, because of my experience in, I have sensitivities to energy and energetic strategies, but I also have a really solid background in corporate training around neuroscience and like helping people really understand their brainwave patterning, how their subconscious, you know, um, works, how the body works on a very, very practical, tangible nuts and bolts level. So that really resonates with me because I can see that these two parts that I previously felt needed to be separated
Nope.
can come together, and they're both my
Yes.
strengths.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so not to compare you to Kentucky Fried Chicken, but I'm like, "What the hell is she about to say?" There are 8 different positioning techniques that I teach on stage as one of my keynotes. I call it the novelty quality that makes something feel new again, and one of those 8 is called combination, where you basically put things in a new combination, and, like, even if all of the parts have been tried and true and are not new, you putting them in combination with each other makes it feel new, exciting again. So a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket has legs and wings and has like all the best parts. And so that damn bucket is what's exciting, even though we all know what a wing is and we know what a chicken breast is and we know what this is. But like
Mhm.
it's a combo meal. There's different positioning techniques that we could explore with you, but I love the idea that we might do this combo positioning technique with you because it connects or it combines the story, right? The magic, the neuroscience, and all of that basically. And I think what we have to also figure out in a really tangible, juicy customer language kind of way is like when combined, what does that equal? Like, what's the equation? 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 10. And what's the 10? And how do we what's the word for the 10? Healing. Like, what is it?
Mm,
And I think, again, that's another, this is where I don't stress about nailing your messaging on this call. What I'm very clear on is what the next best step. Actually, we have now 4 or 5 next best steps from this call to
mhm,
come to this new place for you. Does that make
mhm.
sense?
Yes, yes, and the first thing that came up for me when you said, "What does that equal?" Was change, and then the step beyond that
Mhm.
is it's transformation. It's the
Mhm.
actual when people say, "I'm here and I wanna be there," and there's a gap in between, what does it mean to actually
Mhm.
get to the other side and change?
But
But
hold on a
it's
minute here. Let's add another layer as a
uh-oh.
master marketer, shall we? So change and transformation, awesome, but again, overused. So we're not
Yep.
going to do that for you. We want you to be unique. The other master marketing technique that so many people just don't do is identity. So
Mm,
this plus this equals not just change and transformation, which is in literally a change of state. It's what is the new state called as far as your new identity.
mm,
So not that you're making Taylor Swift Swifties or Harley Davidson, riders, and they literally get buried in Harley Davidson casket and clothing. I'm talking about straight up new identity of self. Sense of
mhm.
self has to change.
Yes.
And that gets fun. Again, your people usually use language like Taylor Swift didn't call them Swifties. They started calling themselves Swifties and then she like
Mm,
blessed it. But your people probably start calling themselves different things when at the conclusion of working with you. I feel this way. I've become this thing. Like it's again, we have to harvest your data, but instead of just saying equals change and transformation, because I feel like, yeah, that's the obvious. I think we have an opportunity to go equals new sense of self and identity.
mhm, mhm. Yep, new sense of self and identity. Yeah, it's an identity shift.
Totally. Has to be. That's what you literally you have are that's what's so cool about you as a provider. You've you are a different person, which is why we're even having this conversation. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if you were the same person who built this website a couple years ago.
Mhm.
So your identity has changed, and so too should the people that you are working with.
Mm, yes. Mhm. Yep, that resonates. Yeah, I can see
What's
oh,
happening?
I can see my
What's
my brain
happening
my
on your
brain
face?
my brain's piecing I'm realizing what's coming really alive for me. And it's interesting because I've done at the time of this recording, I've done actually a couple of recordings, both solo and with someone around marketing and around all the bullshit that is
Yeah,
involved with marketing. And I had a little bit
yeah.
of like a love-hate relationship. And I've
Oh,
talked about the hate version in the past few episodes. But what's really landing for me in this moment is marketing for the good, marketing,
uh-huh.
marketing used right, which
Mhm.
I'm clear on how it hasn't been used well, but I've still had a blind spot in how can we do this good. And I love that, because again, those episodes are going to have been released by the time this one does, and I love that I'm
Uh-huh.
having the opportunity to see the other side now that I've called out the shadow. I'm here sitting in the light, and what's
Delight.
specifically happening around that is this understanding that, yeah, I mean, change and transformation is what I help people do big time. But when I put the marketer hat on, I totally hear what you're saying, that it's like the most overused word
Yes, it
ever.
is. It's
And it's frustrating as a provider because I'm like,
for
it's
sure.
overused, but it's literally what I do.
Yeah.
But I know, like, even when I'm thinking about all my clients that are more in the holistic arts, who are more in the non tangible transformational fields, and how deeply frustrating it is for them to know how to articulate something that is intangible. And in some ways, I feel I've been able, because of my brand story stuff, I've been able to kind of like stick in that tangibility. I had that security blanket,
Edge.
you could
Yeah.
say, yeah. And but now I'm like, oh my god, what do I do without this? And that's where I'm feeling confronted, challenged, vulnerable. Is this space of, okay, I'm in it. I'm stepping into the intangibility field because so much of what we've described is intangible and it's very important. But as a marketer, now
Mhm.
how do I make the leap from
Mhm.
knowing this in my heart and not compromising on that, to actually being able to articulate this to the people who really do need the medicine that I carry?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love your face. It's like
I'm just so excited. So, like, again, you're starting with somebody who self-identifies as a leader, and you're gonna help them become a different version of that leadership. You
Mm,
get to own that, and that gets to be your thing, and you get to do it in your intellectual property, your proprietary methodology that is unlike anything else because it combines who you were and all the work that you've done. Like, the formula is written. What isn't it's almost like the formula has been written down on a piece of paper, but you still have blanks. So you don't have the perfect word to put in the first plus or the second plus yet, or you don't have the perfect word to put on the back of the equation equals blah blah blah. Like, that's the part where I think we get discouraged, is like, oh, the formula, it seems really clear to Veronica because she's on the outside, I'm in it. So for me, the formula is clear. Like, the opportunities are clear. We just have to fill in the blanks. But filling in the blanks is not that hard, again, because we have data and we have a treasure trove of your customer language that we can pull from. And even when we harvest and we go through the data that you have and that you possess and that you could give to me, and I could go through, I mean, like, ah, da, 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 my brain, right? But even beyond that, what you have is what comedians do best in class. Even when we know that we wanna tell a joke about an iPad, or we wanna tell a joke about this subject matter or this material, like, when everybody was, roasting Tom Brady, it's all the same freaking material. He got divorced, he's a football player, he's deflated balls, like, they were all working with the same stuff, and yet all of them had different jokes, and some did better than others. But before they ever went on the Netflix special to record that, of course, they went into dirty ass little clubs and practiced their material to get the validation they needed before they put it on the Netflix special. That's why it took them months and months. Like, if you listen to Nikki's, who slayed it, some of her interviews, she worked at that, like, harder than anything she's ever done, she said. And that's why, like, comedians to me are some of the best professionals to model, because there's zero expectation for nailing it the first time you tell a joke, and there is zero expectation for perfection. It's not possible. They work their craft over and over and over and over again as they get closer to that, like, refined messaging or that refined joke. We get to do the same thing. So even in the harvesting of your data to come up with the first draft of your new identity positioning, your new formula, your new promise, your new identity that you're offering to the leader that you're serving, your new rates, the high stakes, the bat signal, all of that stuff. It's like a worksheet. Even if we fill it out with a first draft based off the data that we found, we still have to put it on its feet, just like comedians will test out material, which is so cool because before social media, you couldn't really do that. Now, with social media and cheap cold advertising, you get to play with some of that and start testing that and validating it, almost like little micro focus groups. So you start going on social media, start going Instagram stories, you start testing little things here and there in a subject line and a cold ad. And you start to see which of those messages are nailing it and drawing the best people for you. And that's an iterative process. It's not going to happen in the day. That's going to be like over the course of a couple of weeks. But that's the fun part. That's where you get to start to test your hypothesis as a marketer.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful perspective. I'm speaking for myself, and I also feel I'm speaking for um, other people who might be resonating with my situation. Is that yeah, it feels edgy, scary, and vulnerable. And I would even say, like, I've been in business for 8 years. You know, my brand has generated millions of dollars. Like, I have certain levels of markers of achievements and accolades and blah blah blah. And I'm sitting here like, oh my goodness gracious, you mean I got a validated message? And there's like
Mhm.
a tenderness, there's almost like a youthfulness to it of starting again, even though I'm not, and feeling like, yeah, a little vulnerable about that, about this creating new positioning and testing out in the market, and maybe my joke isn't funny, and trying again until the joke is funny. There's something about it that feels really tender, and it also feels on a more practical level and a more business woman level. It feels a little edgy because of what you were saying at the beginning of this episode, which is like, oh my gosh, but what this year has been my past moneymaker,
Mhm.
and if I'm
Mhm.
moving into this more evolved, elevated, all the things category that I feel in my soul is like the right direction.
Mhm.
Um, what, and I know this is a question you can't answer. I can't answer it either. Is like, but how long will it take, or until the income levels like match up, or until
Yeah.
it's like a viable, sustainable,
Uh-huh.
viable model. So, and I believe that that's what makes it so hard for people to also let go of things that worked, because that money piece is so present of like, well, this is working and I have a
Oh
team that's working
man.
for me, and like there's overhead costs, and I have, so it's funny, I've supported a lot of clients through this, and I think that one of the reasons I'm going through this entire shebang is so I can become a better mentor, I can become a better advisor to
Totally.
take people through this, because I am in it right now, and I have whatever levels of empathy I had having supported people having these conversations in the past. I'm like 10x at empathy because now I get it. I'm in it, you know?
Yeah. Well, so here's the cool part, or the cool opportunity. There will, I'm not going to lie to you, there are seasons where you have to slow down in order for you to speed up. Have to. Like you can't skip planting the seed, and that just takes time. But again, you're an established business owner. So even while you're trying to validate new hooks, new messages, new word truffle, new lyrics, let's call it like right, new lyrics, and you're doing that every day on social media, or you're doing that again through some cold advertising, like whatever, it doesn't mean that you don't have people that could sell for you tomorrow, which is basically the people that have already given you, that you've given them results.
Mhm.
So, like, if it was me, while I was publicly testing out new material with a prospect who has never purchased from me, I'd actually be going back to all of my former customers who've already worked with me, who have already received this transformation and change in identity. And I would basically incentivize them to help me find new clients through the back door. And I've actually
Mhm.
always done that. So it's very common. You'll see me test out new things, prospect land, but then I, behind the scenes in private conversations, I mean, I reached out to you, I'm like, hey, I have this new offer and I'm not putting it out in the public. That has always been fruitful for me. Always.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
are the kind of provider that one or two clients floats you. Like, it's not like you're not a mass brand, thankfully, because you also believe in high proximity services where you get really intimate with somebody, and that obviously is gonna be reflected in the price.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Relationship marketing for the win, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's my favorite kind.
it's what I've learned also. This is what I've been learning in my journey of better understanding marketing, is that there's relationship marketing and then there's traffic marketing, and they're not the same.
No.
The traffic marketing being broadcasting, social media, putting myself out there in like one-to-many ways, and then the relationship
Mm,
marketing is what you're speaking right now, is that more intimate proximity, having conversations, reaching out to
correct.
people. So that's a really,
One by one.
yeah, that's it, and that totally aligns with my values and where I'm going as well.
Yep.
And
Yes.
and so my question, something that is still feeling present for me, is when you spoke about the bat signals, um, when it comes to this, identity, or this, client avatar that we've identified, how do I go about, or have we already uncovered some of the bat signals? Like, how do I go about um, finding what their bat signals actually are? Because that has been
Well,
a
yeah,
blind spot for me.
super hard. So there's this really beautiful space and time, a really beautiful space and time when your prospect turns into a customer, but there's still a little bit of both. So when somebody first buys from you or signs your agreement or signs your contract, if you're not asking them like, why did you make this decision today? You've missed the moment to grab that bat signal because they're like
Mhm.
they've already paid, so they don't have to lie to you. They paid. They signed. And
Mhm.
so, like, you could really, like, be honest, like, why'd you do this? Like, why now and not tomorrow or next week or next month? Like, what really, because there's always this defining moment for people. Like, my laptop literally got soaked. I've been thinking about getting a MacBook Air or a MacBook anything for years. I told my husband, like, eventually when my computer dies, I'll do it. Well, sister, my water bottle exploded and it died. And that day, whether I wanted to spend $1,700 or not, it didn't matter. I spent $1,700, even though I had been marinating it for years. So, like, there's always a catalyst. There's always something that pushes you over the edge, whether you like it or not. Literally, like, everybody's chanting your name to jump off the cliff. Like, there is either some internal or external catalyst pressure that makes you do the thing today. And that's the bat signals. That's what you want to find out. You can do that when you implement kind of like an immediate survey right when somebody signs up, or because we don't have that for you, that mechanic turned on right this moment, you could go back to your previous clients who you know are very honest with you and be like, why did you buy from me? Like for real. It's like, why did you sign up? Why did you do this? When you could have done it 6 months before, you could have done it 6 months later. Like, why did you? So again, your people will tell you these answers. Moving forward, you kind of want to be more intentional and proactive than
Mhm,
reactive though.
mhm, 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 mhm. That's yeah, that's really potent, is basically what I'm getting from that, is that the clients are the ones to really tell you what that
Mhm,
signal
mhm,
is.
mhm. Always,
So looking at it
always.
backwards with past clients, it's just a matter of asking them, but looking at it
Mhm,
forward, it's baking it into the system. It's actually,
mhm.
going and saying, why did you make this decision today, in that first onboarding form that they fill out? And
Immediate.
what also came up when you were saying about the past clients was, I recently had one of my longstanding clients who's been working with me for 4 years fly here to Ibiza, and we did a beautiful 2-day retreat together, really
Oh, fun.
intimate, really high touch. And
Love
I
it.
actually asked her, I said, "Why do you keep coming back for more? What, just every year you're renewing.
Great question.
Why do you keep coming back for more?" And her response really touched me. She said, "Celine, you've helped me live a meaningful life." And that to me is priceless. I could tell you all the ways you've helped me become better at the workplace, all the ways that I've improved at home, all the ways that I've improved as a person. But really, what it boils down to is um, a meaningful life.
Mm. Mm. Well, that means that she feels like she's still a work in progress, but in a positive momentum, that she's still becoming that identity that she is excited to, like, not that we are ever fully realized human beings, but, like, I'm a better person today than I was yesterday, or at least I like to think I was. I'm a better mother today than I was a year ago, like, with all the work that I'm doing. So that's cool that she validated for you that she's still up-leveling her
Mhm,
identity in proximity and service with you. That's
mhm.
cool. That's really
And
cool.
that's my favorite people to work with, because there's more,
Oh, for
and then there's
sure.
more, and then there's
For
more, and
sure.
then there's more, and then there's more, and they're there for it. Um,
Well, and it drives you to keep developing yourself, which is why you are in constant pursuit of new information, new experiences. Like, sometimes I watch you on social media, I'm like, that is so brave. I don't know if I could do this. Like, dance expression. I'm like, oh, but it's so cool because your clients motivate you to also up level your own identity to serve them better.
Exactly. Nailed it. I got to keep up with it. And I always tell
Mhm.
them, like, every time I go off on one of these adventures, I just say, you're getting more, I'll be back and you're getting a free
Yeah,
upgrade. You're just getting a free
exactly.
upgrade. Beautiful. So with all of that, that was a lot of things that just moved today. And I really appreciate it. And I hope that anyone that's listening, either through osmosis, if you're going through something similar, there were pieces that were able to move for you as well. To start wrapping this up, my curiosity is, what would you then recommend in terms of next steps for me to go off, like the super actions for me to go off and take based on this conversation? What would they be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, to me, the number one thing is we're gonna put. I don't know how formal you want to do, if you want to do it verbally or you want to do it like a Google form, but we're gonna need to survey or extract feedback from people, your favorite
Mhm.
clients, the
Mhm.
clients that you're like, I want 10 more of you, 20 more of you, and 30 more of you. Thank you very
Mm.
much.
Mhm.
Like, we need to go and we need to make sure that we have the questions tight. Like, what specific questions do we need to ask to extract bad signals, to extract aspirational identity desire, to extract high stakes? Like, so that's the most immediate next step is crafting the perfect questions as close to then ask our people to then bring out all of those word truffles. That's number one. Number two, I, again, to the degree that you have calls recorded or a Facebook group or previous screenshotted testimonial or videos, if or email responses or intake forms from the past, like basically any customer data that you could possibly have would need to also be excavated. Okay. So that those are the first two steps that I would do immediately. We're not even gonna worry about marketing assets right now. That's also a step down the road that we have to start changing some of your marketing assets. Even a step before that is a new content strategy because we wanna
Mhm.
test out all these new hypotheses that we're gonna pull from the survey and pull from the hypothesis. So again, those are more steps to come, but they are dependent on the first two that I just told you.
Beautiful. And when you say the truffles and the bat signal, that's really clear. And when you say customer data that needs to be excavated, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so, like I said, intake forms, sales call recordings, if anybody ever responded to your emails, if you sent emails, if you have Voxers with your clients when they first started working with you, if you can go back that far in history that you can
Mm.
transcribe them. Like the closest I can get to when your customers used to be prospects, and I
Mhm.
find, sorry, I should probably define this for anybody listening. I define a prospect as somebody who's never swiped their credit card with you. They are a prospect. You are courting them to work with you, but they've actually never worked with you. They haven't gone past the paid wall. They're still listening, watching, consuming freebies,
Mhm.
right? Freemium. A customer is as soon as they give you $1. So prospect is $0, customer is $1. I would like, even in your customer data, because you have to be really careful with customers. Sometimes when you survey customers who've been with you for a really long time, it doesn't matter what you sell, they'll love you anyways because it's different. But I want to go back to when your customers were as close to when they were used to be prospects for you, if you have any of that data or that type
Mm.
of words. I'm looking for words. I'm looking for not my words, their words. So
Mhm.
that's what I mean by like harvesting and excavating
Mm.
your former customers' information as close to the moment they used to be a prospect for you.
So really what I'm getting from that is understanding specifically what it is that they
The
were
trigger.
saying before they gave me the dollar.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Which
To the
will give
best
us
of my
clues as to
abilities.
what the bat signals are.
Yeah.
From a marketing standpoint, these clues will tell us
Yeah.
how to
Yeah.
communicate in marketing
Yeah.
to explain why, the urgency of what it is that I'm creating, which I'm delivering in the background.
100. And that's, I
Right.
think that's, I'm really glad that this came up because sometimes when we survey current customers, they actually radically send us off the wrong path. We're not trying to get existing Democrats to
Mhm.
vote for us. We're trying to get independents who switch to Democrat. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's again,
Yep.
the campaign analogy I want to use. You're really trying to get the data from people who are nervous to work with you but still didn't. Like that's the space and time
Mm,
that I want to grab that data,
sweet
not
spot.
somebody who's already obsessed with you. You could sell pancakes and they buy your pancakes.
I love that. That's really clear. I think
Mhm.
even that those past 5 minutes was just a marketing masterclass just on its own to really
Yeah.
understand the ways that we can do this. Like I just what I love about this, Veronica, is just it's steady, it's emotionally sober, it's
Yeah.
fair, it's grounded, it's heart
Yeah.
based, and I didn't even know, on a conscious level. Subconsciously, I guess my soul wanted this because there's so many episodes that are just centered around marketing and how to do it right. And I wasn't even trying to go there, but I'm going there. So it's really beautiful to feel like what I feel is as I went a little rebellious. I'm like, I'm off social media. Screw this. I don't want to deal with marketing right now. I had like a little bit of a screw marketing moment.
We all do. We all do.
And now through this conversation, it's helping me come back and be like, wait,
Yeah.
this is really practical, intelligent stuff that I would do to serve the people that I care about. That makes sense. Like, why
Well,
not,
and it's ethical marketing. It's
Mhm.
I to me, marketing is the ethical persuasion of helping people achieve what they already want. I'm not selling them a dream. They
Mm.
already want something for themselves and they want to do it without paying ignorance tax and having more pain and more suffering. And the stakes are high and they are desperate for people to trust. So it's my duty, my moral obligation as one of the good ones to do the hard work so that I can be found to those that need me most. Period. So yes,
Mhm.
to me, marketing is the ethical persuasion. It's a valid, worthy, valiant pursuit of helping people.
Yes. I love
Snaps,
that.
snaps.
Snap, 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 snap. Beautiful. Whew. All right. So you're the
Now
leader.
what? That's funny. Wow, I think this is, again, when you pitched me this idea to do this kind of live coaching session for the podcast, I'm like, that's freaking brilliant. No pressure. So, like, I hope people got a ton of value from this experience. Obviously, I hope that you personally are going to walk away from this session and be like, okay, go put a survey together. We got to harvest and team. Here's our next two steps. Like, that's really what I would love. I love action. I love execution. It's like my love language too. So just, I hope, and beyond seeing Celine's vulnerability and her exploring herself, it inspires you to take the next best step.
Mm.
And if you do, I want you guys to DM me and let me know, like, V, I did it. I put a survey together, or I did this, or you have screenshots, or like, I just, you know, that's the hard part, just the momentum of taking the first step. But once you do, it's not that scary. Like you're just, it's happening for you. So I would love for your people to let me
Mhm.
know what
Mhm.
they took from this conversation and then proof of their next best step.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who are listening, don't be shy. Take a screenshot, tag me and
Yes.
Veronica on Instagram. Like, show us
Yeah.
what you've done and what inspired you from this conversation. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I had no idea where this was going to go. I literally just was like, "Here's my kimono. It's open. Let's go." I was telling Veronica I was super nervous before the session because I thought to myself, "My God, how I'm going to expose myself." Like, but now that we're on the other end of it, I feel really good about having this conversation out loud. I know, as V also said, that we've been having, like, people are having these conversations behind closed doors, and it's been very taboo. It's been very hush hush. And part of my intention with this idea of having V come on and just coach me live was to also like basically diminish the shame, myself
Yeah.
included, that's associated with it, like air out that shame and be like, this is
I love
okay.
that.
People go through this at all kinds of levels. And she even said there's multiple clients that she's brought through. Like, there's no way you would have those two categories if there weren't many, 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 many people that have come to you with those problems, right? And so I also want to open the floor and the conversation away from once this episode finishes, to give you the permission to talk about this, like with your friends, colleagues, whoever, like receive support from it, and not keep it hush hush if you're going through a big transition, because identity shifts shifting is part of life. And what part of my explorations in my work is realizing how that people think identity shifting is so freaking hard and impossible, but it's actually very doable. It's very
It's the
practical. There's a
best.
process,
Yeah.
which is what I do as well. So yeah, let your identity shift and allow your business to shape shift with it, and know that there is a process, there is a way, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And what really truly matters is, at least in my opinion, is following your heart and following that soul's calling, no matter where it takes you, which is right now on. I'll let you know. I'll report back on this
No,
process.
but you're so sweet. I mean, like, I guess I'm in awe of standing witness to your work in progress in real time. So, like, kudos to you though for sharing your story like this and letting me ask you hard questions.
Beautiful. Well, with all of that said, Veronica, before we let you go, how can people find you?
Well, I'm the only Veronica Romney that I know. So just veronicaromney.com or on social media, V Romney. I'm probably the most active on Instagram if I'm being honest. And so if you want to slide into the DMs in Instagram, it's me. No one's responding as me. It's me. And tell me what was your favorite part of the podcast? What action you took as because you were inspired by this conversation? Words of validation and affirmation are important to me, but I also love giving it back. And so if you just need to be affirmed today, you can just DM me.
Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much for tuning into this very precious, unusual, vulnerable, all the things episode. Really appreciate you all. Really, really, really desiring. And I honestly feel if you've made it this far, there was definitely tons of value in it for you if you're still listening. So, yeah, take that home with you and do whatever it is that you need to do to leap yourself forward. Thank you so much, Veronica, for your time and love, kindness,
Of
presence,
course.
all the things. Appreciate you
Of
so
course.
much. And yeah, I'll be talking to you very soon, and see
Okay.
you all
Thanks, friend.
in the next episode. Bye.
Thank you, beautiful humans, for tuning in to today's episode of It's Not What You Think. If you loved what you received today, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps us reach even more amazing listeners like you. If we aren't already connected on social media, come receive even more tips and inspiration by following me on Instagram at Celine DaCosta or visiting my website at CelineDaCosta.com. After listening to this episode, I invite you to take a few moments to reflect. What stood out to you? What were your key takeaways or breakthroughs? And if there was one action step you could take from this, what would it be? Thank you again for joining me on this journey. I'm sending you so much love, and I can't wait to connect in the next episode. Until then, keep sharing your unique gifts and living out your most magical life.